My name is Emily, and I'm 44 years old, working in television. My husband Tom, also 44, runs a photography studio. We began dating in high school and married at 26. Having been each other's first love, it felt as if we were destined to be together, and we never really considered being with anyone else. When I was 25, I lost my parents in a tragic accident. It was an incredibly difficult time, but having Tom by my side made it bearable. His support was like having an extended family to lean on. After our marriage, Tom moved into the house my parents left me, creating a sense that both my parents and Tom were watching over me. 2 years later, we welcomed a son, and our lives felt complete. Tom was fantastic, sharing household responsibilities and caring for our child, embodying the ideal partner for a working couple like us. However, my mother-in-law Jen had issues with Tom doing household chores. This became a problem about 10 years ago. When our son started elementary school, Jen, who lived a 30-minute train ride away, began visiting more frequently to help with after-school pickups since our son was too young to be left alone. Around this time, Jen's husband Steve had retired and was home more often. Jen, having always been a housewife, disapproved of Tom taking on kitchen duties. She often remarked, "A man shouldn't be in the kitchen, or our generation would never have imagined this." During my first visit to Tom's parents' house, she bluntly asked, "Emily, you're going to quit your job, right?" Her views on women being housewives clashed with my career as a broadcaster, which she didn't seem to appreciate. Despite this, Tom, who knew me from our high school broadcasting club, supported my career ambitions, just as I supported his dream of being a photographer. Our mutual support felt entirely natural. Navigating the demands of nursery school was challenging, and we hoped elementary school would be easier. Unfortunately, the after-school care was less flexible, making us more reliant on Jen. Once she started coming to our house, she criticized everything from improperly folded laundry to dusty corners. Tom would respond calmly, "I handle the laundry. Is that an issue? Or a bit of dust isn't a big deal." Despite this, Jen continued to complain to Tom privately, saying things like, "Aren't you embarrassed to have your husband do the laundry?" Or "This is damaging our reputation." Even though her help was valuable, I remained silent. Jen held traditional views but embraced modern conveniences in her own way. Despite her age, she proudly owned a smartphone and used it to book reservations and access services. She often commented on how technology made things easier, saying, "You have to use these convenient tools." At the time, we relied on a weekly paper-based shopping delivery service, which Jen disapproved of. She argued, "You should shop in person. The delivery fee is a waste." When she discovered that online ordering was possible, she chided me, "Emily, why are you using paper? Online ordering is so much more modern." When Jen would stay late into the evening so Tom and I could prepare dinner, she'd often say, "I need to get back for Steve's dinner. He won't eat if he's alone." And then she'd leave. Steve was completely incapable of handling any household tasks. I once asked Tom, "Why are you so willing to help with chores when you grew up in such an environment?" He explained, "Mom always complained about Dad not helping around the house. I didn't want to be the subject of similar complaints, so I made a point to contribute." It turned out that Jen's frustration with Steve's lack of involvement had led Tom to learn from her negative example. Jen's anger that her husband didn't do housework seemed to fuel her amusement at Tom's willingness to pitch in. I couldn't quite figure out what would make her happy, but it seemed she enjoyed complaining, so I tried to keep my distance. At that time, I had no inkling of the drastic steps Jen would take, including selling our house without permission. That summer, my company offered me an exceptional opportunity, a 2-month business trip overseas to cover the World Championship in sports broadcasting. It was a rare chance and a significant career milestone. After discussing it with Tom, who was swamped with work and worried about managing our son John's care while also working, Jen, who had overheard our conversation, volunteered to help. Despite my reservations due to past experiences, with no other options available, I agreed to let Jen take care of things at home. We had considered moving Tom and John to his parents' house, but the commute to school would be impractical, so Jen agreed to stay at our home on weekdays. After completing the sports broadcast and returning exhausted but satisfied, I arrived home one afternoon to find Jen waiting at the entrance, looking as if she'd been anticipating my return. As I prepared to thank her for managing the house, she delivered an astonishing revelation: the house sold for $300,000. And I'm taking the entire amount. My tired mind struggled to process her words. "This house, our house?" I asked, incredulous. Jen's eyes sparkled with a mix of triumph and mischief as she confirmed, "Yes, this house." Confused and trying to make sense of the situation, I asked, "That's it?" Jen laughed, exclaiming, "What are you talking about, Emily? There's a registration certificate in your name. I'm not falling for that." She stood there, arms crossed, looking quite self-assured. Realizing the conversation was going nowhere, I decided to redirect the discussion. "Let's set that aside for now. Why did you sell the house?" I inquired. Jen's eyes were bloodshot as she replied, "What belongs to the wife belongs to the husband, and therefore to me. I'm using the money to build a new house." Her declaration made me uneasy. "A new house? For whom?" I asked, feeling a growing sense of fear. "For Steve and me. You and Tom will live there too. This way, Tom won't have to do any more household chores," she said. She insisted with a serious expression. "I raised him not to do such things, and I won't allow Tom to do household chores in the future." As I pieced together the story, I learned that shortly after our marriage, when Tom was in the kitchen, Jen had told him to let me handle the chores. Tom had responded, "No, this house is Emily's. I need to do at least this much." Jen had misunderstood this as Tom doing chores solely because he was living in my house. She had always believed that Tom didn't actually want to do household work and preferred to focus on his job. The concept of a working couple sharing household responsibilities was foreign to her. I later discovered that after Steve retired, his pension was lower than anticipated, and he struggled to find re-employment. This financial insecurity made them anxious about continuing to live in their rented apartment, leading them to take such drastic and irrational steps. I tried to clarify, "This house isn't mine alone, and Tom considers household chores a normal part of our partnership." Jen cut me off. "Lies. All lies. You're just twisting things to fit your own narrative." I wanted to point out that it was actually she who was distorting the facts, but I needed to get the details straight first. "Where did you sell the house?" I asked. "To AA Real Estate," she replied. "They did an easy online assessment. We sent them the necessary documents, and they sold it without any trouble. It's such a convenient world now." She had found an online real estate agent who conducted a quick evaluation and convinced her that the timing was perfect to sell. "You won't get such a high price for an old house anywhere else," they claimed. Jen added, "You should be grateful, selling a 20-year-old house for $300,000. I picked a good real estate agent, didn't I?" I looked up the real estate company online and found a website that seemed legitimate. When I tried calling them, there was no answer. I asked Jen if she had visited the address of the real estate company, and she said, "No, I didn't need to. You don't have to visit places in person anymore." I told her, "Go to this address tomorrow. If you don't, I won't discuss this further." Reluctantly, she agreed to go. The next day, Jen called me in tears. "The real estate company isn't at the address. There was only a rundown wooden house that looked abandoned." I was so taken aback by her naivety that I couldn't help but laugh. When she returned, she explained that while I was away, she had found a house registration certificate in my name and thought she could sell it. She had hired an agent who deceitfully assured her, "Even if you're not the owner, having that certificate is enough. Just provide us with a family register and a signature certificate." Believing them, she sent all the requested documents. When a supposed buyer was found, they asked for a deposit, half of the commission fee. Jen had transferred $4,800, which was half of the $9,600 commission for the supposed $300,000 sale. I contacted the police to report the fraud. 2 officers came to our house and explained that this type of scam, where fraudsters pose as real estate agents, has become increasingly common. They offer free evaluations, request official documents, introduce fake buyers, collect fees, and then disappear. With many vacant properties and the ability to fake addresses, these scams have proliferated. The fraudsters likely used a fake address to receive the documents. Jen was visibly shaken as she answered the officer's questions. "Let me clarify," one officer asked, tilting his head. "The house deed you sent belongs to your daughter-in-law, correct?" Jen, realizing the seriousness of the situation, replied, "Yes, that's right." As the investigation unfolded, Jen nervously began, "I thought it, well, belonged to my son." But the officer quickly countered, "Even if it was your son's, isn't it odd to try and sell someone else's house?" His incredulous tone made Jen blush and stammer, "No, it's not like that. Emily asked me to. She wanted to get the house appraised for sale." Offering a nonsensical excuse, the officer turned to me and asked, "Is that true?" I simply replied, "No, I didn't ask for that." The officer, uncertain of whom to trust, seemed to side with me over my visibly distressed mother-in-law. "You shouldn't sell property on your own," the officer admonished. This is just outrageous. Jen bit her lip and stared at the ground, remaining silent. The officer, now convinced of Jen's reckless behavior, asked about the deed registration. You sent a copy? He inquired. When Jen weakly responded, no, it was the original. The officer looked even more dismayed. He turned to me and asked, will you be filing a theft report? I answered, no, the document is now invalid. In fact, the house has already been sold to someone else. We were able to complete the sale with just the registration identification due to recent legal changes. The deed itself was no longer required for the transaction, so I kept it as a memento. Jen, unaware of this change, mistakenly believed that the deed meant I still owned the house. Typically, real estate agents would request or verify the deed themselves, but fraudsters often bypassed these details. Embarrassed, Jen shot me a resentful look and muttered, why didn't you sell the house yourself? It's a curse to sell your parents' home. People with flashy jobs are like this. I met her gaze and explained, Tom needed the money to start his photography business. The house was our most valuable asset, so we sold it to an acquaintance and rented it back. Jen's face turned pale with surprise as she exclaimed, Tom, why? I explained that Tom needed a substantial lump sum to fund his dream. After hearing this, Jen's shoulders slumped, and she murmured, so Tom's success is because you sold the house, Emily. Well, I could say that, but I believe spouses should support each other through everything. We're in this together, I replied. Jen suddenly broke down in tears. I wanted to work too, she sobbed. My husband can't do anything, even now. After his retirement, he does nothing. What has my life amounted to? Her continued complaints against Tom made it difficult for the police officer to complete the report. Ultimately, a fraud report was filed, but even after 10 years, the perpetrators remain at large, and it's unlikely the money will ever be recovered. After the incident, Steve became vigilant about Jen's finances, taking control of all monetary matters and restricting her access to money. Jen had to request cash from him for any needs. It's so suffocating, Jen complained to Tom, who reminded her that she brought this on herself. With no disposable income, Jen now works through senior job listings, teaching elderly individuals how to use smartphones. She's well regarded for her empathy with older learners. Steve, perhaps due to his pride, found senior jobs unsuitable and quit shortly after starting, providing no income. Now, Jen is busier, often leaving Steve with household duties while she goes out. Interestingly, Steve has developed an interest in cooking and is becoming quite skilled. The roles in Tom's parents' house have reversed, but both seem to have found new fulfillment. As for me, after my overseas business trip, I successfully advanced in my career and now anchor the evening news. Tom's photography studio is flourishing, and we've managed to save enough to consider buying back and renovating the family home. We are grateful to our acquaintance for allowing us to keep the house despite the unfortunate incident. It turned out well for Tom's parents in the end. Our son is turning 17 and approaching adulthood, so I've shared the story with him as a cautionary tale about internet fraud. To preserve his grandparents' dignity, I've kept the part about them attempting to sell our house a secret.